I started dabbling into the homeschool lifestyle when our oldest was 4. And I will say that it is definitely a choice. And when you decide to homeschool, especially that kindergarten year, you make a decision to take on a huge responsibility. So we made that choice and we made the decision to homeschool our oldest son. And I will be honest with you, throughout our whole tenure of homeschooling, I always had that little voice in my head saying, what if? What if something happens to you? What if I have to put the children in public school or private school? And um, ironically, this past school year, that what if happened. And both of our sons at ages 9 and 6 went into Baltimore County Public Schools. And needless to say, they had a public education experience and we had a virtual learning experience. And now they're tumbling back into homeschooling. And we survived. I survived. and so now my question is not what if, it is what's next. And I will be honest with you. The year ahead, I am apprehensive about. It is a lot different than it was a year ago when we decided to stop homeschooling and go into public education. So much is different now, and it is even different in the homeschooling environment and lifestyle. So I always fall back on this analogy that I've been reminding myself of. When you have a child, you wish to provide them the best education possible. You have these dreams and aspirations and goals and wishes, and it's sort of like planning a dream vacation. And same thing for a dream vacation. You have these expectations and you think they're going to happen because this is all in your dream and this is what you've envisioned. But guess what? Sometimes you get to your dream destination and it's pouring down rain. So what do? You still have your family in tow and you still love them and you want to provide the best opportunities for them. So you pop open your umbrella, you hand out the ponchos, and you make the best of the situation. And that's sort of how I'm viewing this school year, the 2020-21 school year, is that I want to be able to make memories, have an experience that resonates with my children, and you have to be flexible and think out of the box. So I'm hoping that we can help you this evening.
Thank you so much, Amber. We really liked hearing about your unique experiences with both homeschooling and virtual learning. Up next, I'm going to introduce our panelist, Lisa. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and I'd like to share a little bit about myself. Let's see. I've been a librarian at the Essex Library now for, well, not just at Essex, but for 34 years in Baltimore County. So I've seen a lot of kids come and go and grow up and come back and say, I remember you, you came to our school, you know, and did book talks or whatever. That was interesting. I have 2 children. One went all the way through public school, K through 12. And the other one I homeschooled from K through 6th grade. And then she went to public school 7 through 12 and then graduated. So I have experience dealing with the school system and how that helps, you know, how the children go through. And I used to volunteer in their classroom, my son's classroom. So I got to see how school happens. I also, as a librarian, went and did book talks to different schools when we were doing that in the 80s. So I've had some experience with both things. And I agree with Amber, it is a lifestyle for homeschooling. You do, you have to plan your day, you have to do a lot of things, and it does affect your whole family. So that is one thing that you have to take into consideration. You know, if you're working, how your household works, if you have other children that are doing different things. So it does involve a lot of juggling.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing your experiences. The next panel that I'm going to introduce, or the next panelist I'm going to introduce is Mabel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mabel. I just want to thank BCPL for this opportunity. So I am a teacher by trade. I've had probably about 20 years experience, mainly in the preschool setting. I used to work for BCPL as a storytime person, so I have a little bit of experience with the way that BCPL runs and things like that. So I have two boys. They're ages 8 and 6, so they are incoming first and third graders. This is our 4th year homeschooling, and this is our 2nd year with both of them homeschooling. So I'm homeschooling both of them for the 2nd year now. Homeschooling kind of fell into our laps. It was never really our first choice. It was never on the top of our list. We just felt that public school wasn't the right fit for us. And we actually wanted to give our children the experience that we had gotten, my husband and I, when we were younger, which was private school. But there were just some things that just went, you know, complications, I will say, with private school. So homeschooling was really like the last option. And it happened that we met a whole ton of these homeschooling families wherever we went. So we got to speak with them, and it kind of motivated us and encouraged us that we could do it. So here we are. And we are a homeschooling family that reevaluates every single year. So it's not set in stone that we're going to be doing it through high school. So oddly enough, this was going to be the year that we were going to put them into public school. But with everything going on, we decided to homeschool them another year just because of just everything. We didn't want their first public school experience to be virtual. So this is where we are, and we hope, you know, I hope that I bring you some good information that you can take with you.
Awesome, thank you, Mabel. And then finally, I'm going to introduce our panelist, Robin. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Robin, and I started my adult career as a kindergarten teacher, preschool teacher as well, in Baltimore County Public Schools. And that passion has never left. About 7 years ago, my oldest daughter was entering school, and she wasn't going to be able to get the services that she needed to help her to thrive. So we decided to give homeschooling a shot. It wasn't something we ever expected to do. And it's been a roller coaster, and we love it. I guess we have been doing it for 7 years. So my oldest will be going into 6th grade. My second child will be going into 3rd grade. And every year we just kind of morph and change, and we're also winging it. We're not sure if we're going to be doing it all the way through or not. And I also worked at Baltimore County Public Library as a story timer for a while. So I got to see a lot of families that were going into public school, into private school, some that were considering homeschooling. And I'm really happy to be here tonight, and I hope that some of the info that we're giving is helpful to everyone out there.
Awesome, thank you, Robin. So now I'm going to go ahead and go to our questions for our panelists that are hopefully some questions that you might have also had yourself as you're thinking about homeschooling or preparing your kids for virtual learning. And at the end, we're going to go into our question and answer session, and that'll be around 7:45. So if you could just hold your questions until then. Okay, so the first question that I have for our panelists is, our first topic is self-care. Why is self-care for the parent or guardian so important when your child is learning from home? And what are some best practices you have regarding self-care? So who would like to take a stab at that? Mabel, go ahead.
So self-care is extremely important. You're with your children all day, every day. So it's not like in public school where you do get to drop them off and then you go to work and pick them back up, and you have like a small break from them. So self-care is extremely important because you're with them all the time, and you're in every single role kind of going throughout the day. So you don't ever want to burn yourself out. If you ever get to a point where you're not getting enough self-care, both you and your child will get extremely frustrated with each other. And I mean, I've come across it, and I'm sure, my colleagues have as well. Sometimes you just have to kind of just throw in the towel and say, all right, let's take a break and let's, do something else. So as the parent, as the educator, you have to kind of separate the two at some point in time, and you need to just do that. So this year, my husband and I are implementing where he is actually going to take one of the subjects, and he is going to do STEM. So he is going to do all of the science experiments and all of the science and STEM things with our boys. So that's kind of one way that I am going to have my self-care, because I don't have all of the subjects on my shoulders now. It's just kind of like, okay, I just have to prepare for a certain amount, and then everything else falls on him with the STEM. So that's one way that I do self-care, and I'm looking forward to it because of previously I would have to do everything. So thankfully he's a teacher, so we have him home and he can close his laptop and get to it once he's done his day. So that's just like a small tip that I have for you.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. Partnering up with the other adults in your home to kind of share the workload. Does anybody else have any other tips they have for self-care? Yeah, Robin, go ahead.
Kind of piggybacking off of what Mabel said, when your spouse or your partner or someone can help, that's awesome. But until recently, my husband was working most of the hours that my girls were awake. And so I had to kind of finagle ways to figure out how to find some sort of self-care while they were still with me, especially when they're younger. It's difficult to do that. As they're getting older, it becomes a bit easier. And for me personally, I found being active, just going out and taking a walk. Sometimes we walk almost every day together, just around the neighborhood. If it's a nice day, maybe they'll ride their bikes, and I'll pop my earphones in and listen to a podcast or listen to some music, just something to feel like I'm alone, even if I'm not actually alone, something where I'm not mommy or teacher for just a few minutes. And those minutes really add up.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's good advice for anybody who's working from home or spending more time at home than usual, as we all are. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next question because we have a few to get through. So our second topic is routines. What routines did you use while homeschooling that you think a parent or guardian could use as their child learns from home? Amber, go ahead.
I have found that mornings make or break us. That's it. So basically, being that we had the run of public education routine, I could compare my morning routines in both veins as we go into another homeschool year. And what I noticed that was, I felt I was missing out on and my family was missing out on, is that I really like to wake up our boys to a read aloud. And this is something that I've been doing since all the closures have occurred. I sort of brought it back in. And it's really a nice way to wake up the kids and not be jarring. And also, being that I'm a librarian, have to, like when I want to introduce a series or a certain theme, and that might correlate with what we're learning or might just be something absolutely entertaining. And I only do like a half a chapter, so if you know like time. And then once that happens, it's get up and go. And when we get up and go, the boys know that they have 30 minutes to make their beds, get dressed, feed the fish, do the calendar. And then something else that I think is really important, and this can be done, and this goes also with the self-care, done with the virtual learning format, is divvy up the chores. Our boys have morning must-dos, and they have a chart in their bedroom, and they get up after they've made their bed and gotten dressed, and they have to see what chore they have to do in that 30 minutes. And it's very good for me and the family as a whole. But for example, this morning, my 6-year-old, who's going into first grade, wiped down all the kitchen cabinets, washed the windows in the screen door, and all the windows that he has put his fingers on that he can reach. While my older one cleaned our bathroom from floors and everything. So it's a really good routine to get into. And after the 30 minutes are up, they're sitting at the table and they do a small learning activity before breakfast. So sort of engaging their brain to begin learning. And we have little handwriting, geography, something along that line, a journal entry. And they do that, and they will also get rewarded at the end of the week for the chores, I promise. But and I also found the two most difficult times for me, and I think for many parents, are meal times and bedtime. So at mealtime, again, what I realized, there are blessings in this pandemic. That podcast or an audiobook is amazing during mealtime, especially when you're teaching your child or doing virtual learning. I put on the podcast that we love, they eat their breakfast, 20 minutes, they're done. So it's really helped our morning. And I suggest, if you're doing homeschooling or virtual learning, to try to integrate one or both of those things.
That's great. Thank you, Amber. Go ahead, Lisa.
I think it's really important to have a home routine and a school routine, but don't let the two cross over because it feels like your school never ends if you don't end school at a certain time. We would do school on the dining room table, so it was really important that we would do school for a while and then wrap it up, because nobody wants to eat next to a pile of books or think that you have a project sitting there forever. One of the things with keeping a schedule or a routine is that you need to plan for your day. And I don't mean plan to the very second, but have an idea of what you're going to do for today, for the next day. I would do like a week at a time. So I would have on my radar what I wanted to do, and then I would run to the library, get my books, and then, or whatever I needed, and then have that as my backup plan. And with our schedule, I would always start out with something fun, and then do something that wasn't as fun, and then reward with something fun again. And that seemed to be a good way. And then, like, you can judge by your kid. If your kid's getting overwhelmed, you're not on a schedule that you have to, beat it into them that they're going to learn this. You know when they're getting it, and you know when they're not getting it. Walk away, take a walk, come back, do it the next day. You don't have to get it done that second. So that's where I think the routine comes in. You eventually get it done, but you don't feel like a pressure to get it done.
That's really good advice. Thank you. Go ahead, Robin.
Thank you. I just kind of wanted to say that while the routines are very important, as they were just pointing out, it's also good to know that everyone's school looks different. And looking at your natural schedule and the schedule of your children can sometimes be really helpful too. When I first started homeschooling, I had a teacher mentality and I wanted to take school and perform at home. And then when I kind of realized that wasn't working for us, I had to look at where my kids were when they were the best. One of my kids is a really early bird. So she starts her core subjects, her most difficult things at about 6 a.m. because that's when it works best for her. Where my other one likes to sleep in, she's kind of a night owl. And so maybe I'll give her more difficult subjects later in the day when she's at her best. So while I'm definitely in agreement about how important the schedule is and the routine of things and knowing what you're going to do, also looking at your individual kids' needs and what works for them really helps maintain your sanity.
Absolutely. That's great advice. So real quick, Mabel, and then I have to move on to our next topic. I'm sorry.
No problem at all. I did just want to kind of piggyback on what Robin was saying. So like, you also have to kind of think of yourself, your kind of scheduling too, like the way that you perform. So I'm kind of more of a night owl, and my kids normally wake up probably like around 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. So we make it a point where we start school no later than 10 o'clock, which, you know, for some people might seem super late, but for us it works. So just having that, and kind of what Amber was saying, we have that morning routine, and then at 10 o'clock is when we're starting school. So it's kind of like we integrate everything that that everybody had said. So
Yeah. That's great. All right. Our next topic is setting up your space, which I know can be challenging for different families, especially because a lot of parents are working from home as well. So what are some best practices you've learned from homeschooling about setting up your kids' space for learning at home? Who would like to share about their space that they set up? Go ahead, Mabel.
So when we first started on this journey, we took one of our bedrooms, and so our boys share a bedroom, and then we took our extra bedroom and made it into homeschool room. And I know a lot of people tend to do this in the beginning, and then we never really spent time in there. We were more dining room table learners. So we would kind of just set up on the dining room table. So just kind of like some advice, like don't go crazy over trying to set up a perfect classroom area, because it might not even be used, number one. And number two, you might find that, you know, your children or you yourself don't like that small confined space, or just the way that things flow in there. So just kind of be flexible of where you are. So my plans are still to kind of go into that room next year, just to kind of have a little bit more and kind of shut the door on it, because sometimes, like Lisa said, we have projects and papers on our dining room table that by the time dinner rolls around, I'm like, all right, guys, you have to move all of that stuff out of the way. So so hopefully we'll go back in there. If it still doesn't work, we'll still do our dining room table. But, you know, don't knock yourself if you don't have like a perfectly set classroom area, because it's not really, you know, that important, because you can go outside and learn if you wanted to, or you can go in the backyard, you know, on a picnic table or something. So.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Amber.
To piggyback on Mabel, I found myself so we live in a much smaller space now than we did when we were homeschooling. And so I had to be very creative during the virtual learning process, especially since I have two distinct grade levels. I had a kindergartner, now first grader, and a soon to be fifth grader. So I was thinking, oh, how am I going to do this? But it's funny because I feel like we've started already sort of. I consider myself more of a year-round homeschooler, and just sometimes we're heavier than lighter. But I found that, yes, we are gravitating to the dining room table. I mean, kids are constantly learning anyway. So I used to joke all the time that we are a homeschooling family, but we're never home. So I do think it is important that children have their personal space. And being that our boys do share a room, like Mabelle's sons, I have personal desks made for them that they go where they know they can work independently, quietly, and feel independent. Like if they get a task that they think they can do on their own, I let them go in there. But we do whole family activities at the dining room table. And whereas in our old house, I had a separate space. So I feel like, again, I have all these different experiences, but I feel like it's sort of lovely right now. Ask me in February when it's snowing. But I have bins in the kitchen that are personalized, and I have basically family activities in those bins for each kid. And then their individual subjects I have in their desks. So it seems to be working. Everybody's going to have to find their niche. And don't go crazy on buying school supplies. You will definitely save money.
Yeah, I know that can be tempting. All right. So our next topic that I wanted us to talk about is socializing and social learning, which are related, but also two different things. And it's something that I know a lot of parents are worried about with their kids, especially if they're virtual learning for the first time. They're not socializing like they used to. So what are some best practices you've learned from homeschooling about socializing or social learning? Go ahead, Robin.
The first thing is that it's going to be a transition year for us as well. Even though we're called homeschoolers, as Amber was saying, we didn't stay at home a lot. We liked to kind of explore while we were going around. There was lots of socialization, where now we're kind of pulling back because of everything going on. But one of the fun things that we've been doing is you can socialize on Zoom or other things like that with friends that you have made little clubs. We have different clubs going on. There's lots of learning pods that are starting to come about, which are similar to what homeschoolers call co-ops. And so there's lots of ways that you can still socialize, whether it's engaging outside or indoors, but finding your kids' interests and then kind of going with that and making those virtual clubs or that sort of thing. There's also a lot of classes that are now being put online that are fun club classes, like throughout school and that sort of thing.
Great. And then I think, Amber, you had something you wanted to mention as well?
I think I'm sure the rest of the panelists will agree. I think that's one of the things that you first get asked when you say, oh, I homeschool, or I'm thinking of homeschooling. And socialization is always the button, I guess. And I always have looked at it, again, like what Robin was saying, is you have to really fine tune and understand what your children's likes are. Because it's the same thing when they're in any other setting. They're going to gravitate towards those people and those things that they enjoy. The other aspect that I like to bring attention to, and that I realized over the years, and that was sort of magnified to me whenever the boys went into public school, is the fact that children, since even in daycares, they're grouped by age equivalent peers. And they go through that cycle their whole childhood. But yet as adults, do we only socialize with age equivalent peers? No, most of the time, no, we don't. We have to adapt and understand people of different ages. So I feel that homeschooling and even this virtual learning experience, I know that all the restrictions and what we have to do for social distance puts a damper on it. But I really noticed it because our boys are really close to one another, and they really hurt during the school days because they didn't see each other. And then, ironically, we had gotten together with a homeschooling family that we are friends with a few days ago, and at a park, and my oldest was like, wow, Mom, I really missed hanging out with all those kids of different ages. And I think what I like to call it is cross-generational socialization, because you get the opportunities. I mean, my sons, we've had volunteer opportunities with the elderly. We've done things, I mean, they saw me as I traveled home to see my grandmother during her last days and going to senior centers, and otherwise they would have been in school. So there's opportunities for them to socialize in a again, out of the box thinking, but they become more aware of what our job is as parents, is to produce children that will become adults. So they get to experience different aspects, like, okay, that kid who's 2 is having a meltdown. I've seen it before. How do I react? Do I bother my mom? Or do I bother my friend's mom as the sister is having a meltdown? No, I leave her alone. Like, so it's like they just start to pick up those sort of cues, and it's quite endearing. And I honestly, I think it's a good aspect to look at homeschooling and virtual learning, and maybe in the future, but of really socializing children cross-generational.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Amber. So the final topic that we're going to talk about before we move on to our question and answer portion is library resources, specifically BCPL resources. So I'm going to give the panelists an opportunity to share what good resources the library has for families that are going to be learning from home in the fall. Go ahead, Robin.
Audiobooks. Audiobooks have been so awesome. We listen to them specifically in the car, driving places. We pause them and we discuss what's going on. And you never hear, are we there yet? Because we're really involved in the book. So audiobooks have been one of the things that I've really utilized at the library for all the grade levels. They have, you guys, BCPL has audio for everything from history to just general interests. And we've really utilized the audiobooks so very much.
That's great, yeah. Go ahead, Lisa.
I'm going to plug the librarians. I would call, right now you can call, leave a voicemail, tell the librarian what you're looking for. Say if you're looking for children's books on certain subjects for a certain age group, you'll get a call back and you can just have a discussion of what you need, and you can pick them up curbside. You can still get books, you can get audios, videos, anything you need, and there's a wide subject. So I would say that the books for me, when I was homeschooling, I could not ever even, I couldn't begin to afford what I got for free. It's just a resource that it's amazing. So that would be my thing, is contact your local library and ask.
Definitely, I second that. Don't be shy about calling and leaving a voicemail. I know it feels like, you're talking to a machine, and at that time you are, but a real librarian like Lisa or anyone else will call you back and be able to have a conversation with you about what you need, and that's especially helpful during this time when you can't actually physically go into the building and browse yet. So thank you for sharing that, Lisa. Any other resources that we wanted to share? Go ahead, Amber.
I love the novelist K-8 database on our website, and simply because I have a ferocious family of readers. So I love using it. And there is one also for adults and teens, but the Novelist K through 8 is wonderful because if your kid, all you want to do, and I am obsessed with books, but mildly, but all you want to do is get that child to read, love to read, or continue to read. And if they gravitate towards a certain book or a certain genre or an author or a series, you can go into Novelist K through 8 or the regular Novelist. It's in our database on our website under books and more. And it's in alphabetical order. And you can plug in an author and find author read-alikes, series read-alikes. You can plug in a title and get title read-alikes. So I use that when I'm in the branch with customers, and I use it at home constantly. It's really a good asset to have in your pocket, whether you're just a parent, just a librarian, homeschooling.
Yeah, definitely. We have a huge amount of databases on our library website that are free and accessible to anyone. Did anybody else have any other resources from the library they wanted to share? Okay, so we can also quickly go back on another topic that I thought we might not have time for, but it is an important topic, which is outdoor time. And that's very important to integrate as you're homeschooling and virtual learning. So can someone share how they utilize outdoor time in their day with their kids? Go ahead, Mabel.
For being a homeschooler, physical education is one of the things that you have to do. So going outside is our physical education. So we used to be involved a lot in rec sports, but because of everything and everything kind of shut down, there wasn't any rec sports in the springtime or the summertime. So we would go outside a lot. Not only did it count as like our physical education credit, but it also really helped us to just kind of just take that breather, take that moment of self-care that we needed. We would go for walks as a family or bike ride as a family. We would also go and kind of extend anything that we were doing with nature in our science unit. And go outdoors and just kind of go exploring and looking for things, or, on our walks, if we came across something that was interesting that we had never seen before, when we got back, it would be something that we would research and get to know a little bit more about. So outdoor time is absolutely phenomenal, and it's like super important because it can open doors to so many other like subjects and just things that you want to research as a family.
That's great. Thank you, Mabel. Anybody else want to share? Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
One of the things that I think is important is that learning just doesn't happen in a chair. Some kids learn visually, auditory, kinesthetic. Some kids like to listen to music. Some are real analytical. I mean, there's a whole gamut of learning. And sometimes when if you're in the house and you need a break, you go outside, it just changes your mood. It gives you time to relax, just change of scenery. If you just go for a walk, you can discuss what you were talking about before. Maybe sometimes the problems work themselves out just because you're chit-chatting about something else and they go, oh yeah, it makes that connection. And I just think that I think it's a healthy thing to do. Get some fresh air, just move your body, help yourself learn in a different way. That's it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lisa. Go ahead, Amber.
Real quickly, since the start of the pandemic, I decided, since we were outside like 85% of the time, trying to find things to do that were safe, I integrated a nature journal into our outdoor experiences. So it was just something tangible that the boys would have. And I bought a commercial one. You can do it yourself and create your own nature journals. Just do a search online. And have your kids make them too. Don't put it on your shoulders. But they really helped just extend our time outside longer, reflect on the world around them, especially during all the stressful times. It's like, oh, look, birds are hatching, the bees are buzzing, there's great things happening. And it was a way for them to reflect on it. And it was quite lovely. And I, like I said, you can make your own, real simple, just stick a notebook in your knapsack and go, and some pencils.
Awesome. All right, so we're actually going to move to our question and answer portion now. So I'm going to ask the attendees if you have any questions. You can use the raise hand function, and I can unmute you so that you can ask the question out loud, or you can also feel free to type your questions in the chat. I would just make sure that you write the question to all panelists and attendees so that the people who are watching can also see your question. And I just wanted to give everybody a little heads up that while we are sharing a lot of our tips and insight about homeschooling, we can't tell you how to register for homeschooling or the paperwork involved, because there are a lot of legalities involved with that, and it can vary a lot depending on what part of the county or city you're in. So for those questions, we strongly encourage you to direct those to either your county school system or the city school system that you're part of. So thank you for understanding that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and call on Ange B. And yep, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to know, what was the deciding factor when you decided on a curriculum to go with?
Anyone can answer. Go ahead, Robin.
Curriculum, I have still not found the perfect curriculum. Every year I've picked and choose what appeals to me. The main thing that you're looking for in a curriculum is what feels right to you, what you feel that you can implement. Some are more heavier, are heavier than others with your involvement. And I always say, look for used curriculum and don't try to get it all in one, because what you start in the beginning, you'll be very different in the end of the year, most likely.
Okay.
Amber, did you want to add to that?
Piggybacking on what Robin says, you sort of have to see, and if you're deciding to do homeschooling after virtual learning, you may already have seen how your child likes to learn and what he or she has as weaknesses or strengths. So you sort of, the positive end of it is that you sort of have that idea already in mind. And there's so much out there, and I know it's overwhelming. I also suggest trying to, get a mentor maybe that has been homeschooling and sort of look on their bookshelves and go through their things and have a nice little coffee and a pastry and chit chat about it. That's a lot of what I've done in the past, because the curriculums can be very expensive, and there are outlets where you can get them less expensive. But I recommend finding someone that you respect and you like what you see their children learning, and sort of, become a good friend with them. That's what I
Okay.
All right. So I'm actually going to go back and forth a little bit with the people who are raising their hands and the people who asked questions in the Q&A function, just so that we can try to get everybody. So earlier somebody asked, do you have any suggestions for teaching a subject area that is not your strong suit? Can anybody answer that? Go ahead, Mabel.
So just kind of like what I said during the self-care, if you do have another adult, that can help you with some of this learning, then kind of, if they can do it, then just designate that to them, because they might like it better. So I absolutely love science, but I realize that I'm not the best at teaching it, and it's not the most exciting thing for me to teach. There are certain things in it that I like doing. So my husband told me that he would take that aspect because he just seemed completely, thrilled about doing it, and he offered. So I was like, sure, that's perfect. So music is another requirement that homeschoolers have. And you get a tutor if your budget permits. Get a tutor for a certain subject, or get some lessons that you can implement. So our boys take piano lessons, but you can find free things to do. But don't be afraid to designate things to other people that can help and have the expertise.
Yeah, go ahead, Amber.
The other thing is you think, okay, you have to step out of the school mindset. So, for example, this year, my older son loves art, but this year, unfortunately, we really can't do art with who we used to do art with because of the pandemic, and we can't get into those classes. And he doesn't prefer doing virtual learning on a computer doing art. So we are going to do art history, which will be art. And the same you can do with music as well. So I'm going to do music history and art history this year because we can't farm it out, and use audio, a lot of audio. My husband has an art background, so he is doing that for the boys. But, and so I farmed that out to him. But, and same with PE. Same also, again, going back to music, PE, music, you can go to a concert, you can watch a concert. If you have older children, you can use the library and watch some great courses on composers or artists. So you just have to think out of the box. And if you have a question, you can always contact your city or county if you're thinking, oh wait, I have this great idea to teach my 6th grader music. Is this the way to do it? Again, if you have a mentor or somebody that you're also in this journey with, that could also help you as well. But you don't have to teach painting. You don't have to teach an instrument. So just being a little bit more flexible in regards to thinking out of the box. You don't have to do 2nd grade history. So
that's good advice. Lisa, and then Robin, go ahead.
One of the things is that you can learn along with your child. Your child will, I think, later on appreciate that you are learning with them. All you have to do is be a little bit ahead. Like, you can read a little bit about it, and if you're, as long as you are attempting it together, and they see that you're really trying, and you're going to learn something. You may not be an expert on it, but you're going to learn it together, and your child will see that it doesn't come easy to mom either, or dad, and they kept learning, and finally we got it and we learned it. So I think that helps them with their persistence in attempting to learn it, and maybe they'll become a lifelong learner. Who knows? Yeah.
Go ahead, Robin.
And that was exactly what I was going to say, Lisa. Learning with your child is it's beneficial for both of you. And if you're uncomfortable teaching a certain subject area, there are a lot of curriculums out there to choose from. And some are things that are like on DVDs for you. Like math, there's higher level math that you can get on DVDs, and they will do that kind of teaching. And you can learn beside your child, still get that learning in with them. But someone else is taking that role, even if it is a curriculum. There's some curriculums that will kind of go line by line on what you should say. And those types of things can be helpful for areas that you're really unsure about.
That's great advice. And I think that's good for a lot of parents to hear. No one is expecting you to be the expert on everything. So thank you for sharing that. All right, so I'm now gonna call on Liz, who has her hand raised, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Would you be able to speak up a little or maybe type your question in the chat? Okay. She may be typing now. So I'm going to go ahead and go to another question, which says, will you be doing any field trips? Or I guess maybe what kind of field trips are you looking into, since, you know, a lot of things are closed right now? Anybody have it? Go ahead, Mabel.
So before the pandemic, we took a lot of field trips and homeschool classes at museums that offered it. Sometimes they were free, but most of the time you would pay like a small fee to take these classes. I was looking into it, but I haven't seen anything that has popped up yet, only because I think that everybody is getting back on their feet with reopening and everything. So I would like to take some field trips. I probably will go to like the aquarium or the zoo, and just kind of not take as many field trips as I normally would have, but still get something in there where they can, you know, learn outside of the home instead of just kind of, you know, just kind of exploring around our neighborhood.
Good. All right. Oh, go ahead, Amber.
No, I was just saying, I do think that a lot of museums and public places are getting on their feet, but I have been getting flyers and some emails saying that some of the stuff up and through January is going to be virtual, and then they're hoping that in the spring that they will be in person. So they are offering, I've seen some theater groups offering virtual opportunities. I've seen some museums, but again, it's all virtual, and they're taking registrations, and I don't think you have to pay because it is so uncertain. You can register for the spring.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Robin.
There's also field trips you can take to your local nature centers, where the ranger, the naturalist there, can talk about specific things. We actually did that many times throughout last year. Some are free, some are very low prices. You can even book them with small groups, and that may be something that they're taking to the outdoors now, like maybe they're taking some of the animals out to you. So all of the local nature centers are usually pretty helpful for those things.
Awesome. All right, so I have a couple of questions here in the Q&A function, and they actually all kind of, well, two of them go together, but I'm going to ask this next one, which is how to teach homeschoolers time management. So I guess maybe time management for yourself and also time management for the kids who are doing the learning. Go ahead, Amber.
Timers. Lots of timers. Especially timers and rewards, and they don't have to be tangible rewards. They can be just, you get to choose your TV show tonight. You get to choose your snack. You earned X number of minutes. But yes, a lot of timers. And also, this is something that we've had to, I make sure that we end our day, if we're not out and about, but if we're in the home learning, that we end our day. And I have a whiteboard is helpful. Whiteboards, thank you. Whiteboards, and then so that the child can tangibly see what he or she has to do that day. And if you have multiple children, each child has a whiteboard or a Post-it, and they can check off. My older son has a daily planner. My younger son has the whiteboard. My older son sees his whiteboard in the morning, copies it off in his planner, and checks it off as we go through the day. So, and also, depending on the age, you designate a certain amount of time for that task. So again, if it's a 15-minute task, he doesn't get it in 15 minutes. He either has to do it again tomorrow, or it's homework. So, I mean, that's just the way I do it, because I have a child that is really weak at time management. And that's just his weakness. So that's what I would recommend. But whiteboards are very helpful, and it gives the child ownership too, and they can see that they're getting along in their day.
Good. Okay, so another question that we have is, if you have more than one kid at home, kids tend to distract each other. And also, if you have any tips for how to juggle on focusing on one child for their school time while also having another child to take care of. So kids of different ages, how do you deal with them distracting each other, having to teach one, take care of one, etc.? Go ahead, Robin.
Usually I will start with my youngest for doing something one-on-one with her, and I give my oldest something that she's able to do independently. And then we switch. And one of the other joys with homeschooling, or I would say with virtual learning as well, is that you can teach some of your things family style as well. Things like science or history. You can come together, talk about them together, throw some things out there for your higher level learners, throw some things out there for your younger learners, that everybody can talk together, grow together, read together. But definitely when they need that individual one-on-one time, if your other child has their checklist, as Amber was saying, has their checklist of things that they can complete that are their independent learning, whether it was doing some review math work for the upcoming lesson, and then you just switch children and they get into that routine and then they understand. Unless you have a really little one. When you have a little one, sensory bins were a godsend for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Robin. Go ahead, Mabel.
Just pretty much I do everything that Robin has said. Is I'll work with one of them first while the other one is doing like the independent review from the previous lesson, or kind of doing like a small pre-assessment or something like that. And then I'll just toggle back and forth with them. But we do also do our science and our history together. And we also do art as well together. So, you know, don't be afraid to just, like Robin said, do like family style learning. And for little ones, when my younger one wasn't quite school age yet and I had both of them there, I would have like some pretend worksheets for him to do while I was working with the other ones. So kind of involving them in the homeschooling aspect really helped him kind of feel like he was being homeschooled as well, even though he was, but at the same time, it's like, hey, where's my piece of paper that I need to draw on? So, you know, a coloring activity, or, you know, tracing their letters or their numbers or things like that, you know, playing with Play-Doh, like Robin said, some sensory bins and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to kind of involve them into their learning with worksheets or things like that.
Yeah, that's great advice. Okay, I'm gonna allow one of our people who has their hand raised to talk. There's no name, so go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Actually, I'm sorry. This is Dina Bean. You actually just answered the question. My question was, how do you do two kids at the same time? So you actually did answer it, but thank you.
Okay, great. Amber, did you have something to add to that?
Yes, I do. I started homeschooling while I was nursing. So I get it with the younger kid, and I only have two. So and so I had the whole toddler, and when my oldest was in first grade, it was really hard. I will admit, I have a Rachel Carson quote that I went to all the time to find purpose. And it was difficult, but I will say, plugging the library again, when they're in that toddler stage, I always, multisensory, absolutely, but also audiobooks. They're not readers yet. My younger son wanted to read so bad because the older brother was doing it. And so giving him that audiobook in his room, when they get older, you know, when they can be safely in the room, of course, with some sensory things, blocks, little books, but having that audiobook on, and it may be a topic that we were talking about in history, again, the whole family style. The other thing is headphones. Headphones are wonderful. And if, like, you have one child, my older son is doing math online this year, and in traditional sense as well. But if the one child is doing work, the headphones are on. And it's just like when mom's on the phone, headphones on, you don't talk to him. So it's just little things that you have to put in place. Again, if he's in his desk, you don't bother brother. And, you know, and it goes both ways because they both are at each other. So it's just that you just set up parameters. Headphones are great. Audiobooks are great. And little tasks, like if you're doing an activity where they're creating something, really incorporate the child by teaching them how to use scissors. Even though they can't do the project that the older siblings doing, you can still have a cutting exercise for the child to do. So try to always keep them involved. I know it's a lot, but that's when I found that I saw the behavior and we started to melt down, is when my younger son wasn't involved.
Okay, yes, that is good advice. All right, looking at the Q&A, I know we're running over time a little bit, but so thank you for those who are sticking with us for this. Will there be a certificate of participation for best practices for homeschool? That's a really good idea. I'm happy that you feel you're learning so much that, you know, you think a certificate would be a good idea, but we actually don't have one of those. And then I have another question that we may or may not be able to answer. Are there any groups that you know of for kids with autism? I don't know if any of the parents here have experience with that or if they know of any groups. Yes, Robin, go ahead.
I can't think of any formal groups off the top of my head, but I've seen a lot. And I think that if you go on Facebook homeschool groups and you ask that question specifically on those groups, they'll be very helpful in pointing you in the right direction. Because I have seen that question asked, and I've seen people that have pulled groups together, but I don't know any formally offhand.
Okay, thank you for that. All right. Okay, so, someone said that they've been to Mabelle's story times and that they did reading with a librarian with Amber, so that's great to hear. Do you have any, the question is, do you have any recommendations for podcasts or a platform that has podcasts for kids younger than 7? Might want to go more for the audiobooks for that, I think. Go ahead, Amber.
So I actually found some podcasts advertised on Facebook. So you might see some if you they start linking you in to other ones, but as soon as you express an interest. The other thing is we have the playways at the library, and again, headphones. They're little, they can carry them in their pocket, and they put headphones in and they can listen to a story as they're helping you clean the house. but they're, I recommend that. The other thing is, if you're looking to supplement virtual learning, see how the year pans out. You know, virtual learning is difficult, and it's an adjustment, and you're sort of structured by the structure of the school. But see what they're learning and what they're not learning, and what they're maybe weak on, or what they need to be, it needs to be accentuated. My family, we love history, love it. We can never get enough of it. So there are certain books that the library has for younger learners, and that you can incorporate listening to those on audio or reading them aloud. Any history book, for example, and you can look online and pull up coloring pages. So that's multi-age, and so that they can be coloring as you're reading them a period of history. They can be, you can give them a dictated sentence, a fact from what you've been reading about science. So just take your year as it goes, and always lean back on the library.
All right, go ahead, Mabelle.
About the supplement, so what I used to do is, I don't take it for granted, board games and card games, because a lot of those things actually have like hidden little strategies and different things that, you know, your child can learn, problem solving skills, how to, you know, be strategic about something. There are also games that you could like research just that will help you with say phonics or different types of things like that. I came across it, and I'm not trying to like plug this in there or, you know, put this out like as an advertisement or anything, but there's this game called Anomia Kids, and it really helps with like beginning sounds. And, you know, my boys and I have started playing it, and they absolutely love it and ask for it all the time. And, you know, hidden in there is the beginning sounds that you have to do when a card hits the table. If you have the same symbol on it, then you have to say, you know, a sound word that starts with the same sound as the opponent's card that matches, you know, the symbol. Then there's like Go Fish, which is helping to, you know, recognize numbers. You know, you know, hey, do you have a 5? And then, you know, say you hand them a 4 and they're like, hold on a second, that's a 4, that's not a 5, I asked for a 5, you know, just like those types of things. So don't take for granted just playing like just good family style, like board games and card games.
Great. Yes, Robin, go ahead.
Piggybacking off of what Mabel was saying about the games, you can also take your favorite games and just stick whatever kind of learning that you're doing into that game. Say you're playing Candyland, and one of your children, we're going back to teaching 2 kids at the same time, one of your children is learning their letters or their letter sounds, then you have a pile of index cards and you show them the letter, and they have to identify the letter, and then they can pick up their color card and use that many on the board or roll the dice. When your other child goes, you ask them to spell their current spelling word or to solve a math fact, and then they're able to spin or roll the dice and go that many on the board. It just makes you able to use the games that you have, the games that you love, for the skills that they're designed for, like Mabel is saying, and then for review skills that you have to do to help them to get what they're learning into their memory.
Awesome. Go ahead, Lisa.
One of the things you can do is have your have one child read to another child. Say if your older child wants to read to the younger ones, or the younger one is reading to the older one, so the older one can help the younger one with any issues. But there's that interaction that they can help one another, and they're both learning to take turns and patience with another person.
Yeah, that definitely goes into some of the social learning. All right, so it's 8:15 now. So we did go over time a little, so thank you so much to those who stuck around with us. And I also wanted to say thank you so much to our panelists, Lisa and Robin and Mabel and Amber, for all of the great advice you gave and being able to share all of your unique experiences with us. I wanted to let everyone who's still here know that this is a series of panels. So we are going to continue, but with different presenters. And the next panel is going to be next week, but it's going to be on Thursday, August 27th at 7 p.m. And that one is called Learning from Home, Setting Up Your Child's Space. So we're going to talk more in depth about setting up the learning space at home. And then the other panels that we have coming up, so that one, that's next week, you can register for now. These next ones coming up, you can't register for yet, but just keep an eye out for them on our website. We have one that's specifically on the importance of routine. We have one that's going to be on your child's social and emotional health. And then we have one that is going to be on resources from BCPL and BCPS, Baltimore County Public Schools. So we did touch upon a lot of these today during our discussion, but very briefly. So if you want to learn more about any of these topics in depth, they'll be coming in the next few weeks. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today. I wish everyone best of luck in their child's learning from home, however that looks for you. And I hope that this was helpful to you. Have a good night, everybody. That's the end of our panel tonight. Goodbye.